All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We are talking about the Detroit Lions, by far the best team in the National Football League. The Lions literally cannot lose. It feels like a Super Bowl or bust season. The Lions have now won 11 straight football games. They're 12-1 for the first time in franchise history. They have now won 11 games, which is in a row, which is also the first time in franchise history. You just ruthlessly swept my Green Bay Packers. You're also 4-0 in the NFC North this season. So, pretty much a good way to look at it is this: the Detroit Lions have 4 games left this season. If you win 3 of them, and one of the main reasons I'm saying this is because you're taking on the Buffalo Bills in like 8 or 9 days from the time of this recording. By the time you watch this, it'll be a week. But you take on the Buffalo Bills, one of the best teams in the NFL. I'm just saying you have 4 games left, and if you win 3 of these next 4, you are guaranteed to secure the #1 seed. You are also guaranteed to secure the NFC North. And Thursday's football game against the Packers was the Detroit Lions' 3rd game in 11 days. I mean, what they're doing, what we're watching right now, it literally is unprecedented. There are injuries everywhere. They came in with 16 players on IR. Like, all of these guys are like defensive dudes. They lost even more as that game played out. I'm really starting to hate Thursday night football as far as like a player safety, player health aspect. You got, we just watched a game, right? Quan Alexander, Jamal Adams, Miles Adams, Jonah Williams, Ezekiel Turner. None of these dudes were on the roster to start the season. I mean, they're decimated. Aiden Hutchinson, Alex Anzalone, you probably know. It goes deeper. It's starters, it's stars, it's depth players, it's new additions. You name it. The Detroit Lions defense is decimated, and they're still winning football games. So welcome back to the channel. We're obviously talking about the Detroit Lions in tonight's video, but before we do, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. Lions fans, I love you guys so much. We could try and get this video to 300 likes, guys. That would be the absolute world to me. I even want to pinpoint a couple of players. I want to pinpoint 2 dudes in specific, Zeke Turner and Tim Patrick, because that football game was insane. And you guys know I'm a Packers fan, and I said this in our victory recap, in the Lions victory recap a couple of nights ago. If the Packers lose a football game, I don't hate everything. If we lose a game to the Detroit Lions, I don't hate everything. The only time I would be upset with the a Packers loss is if I'm watching the game live at Soldier Field and we're playing the Chicago Bears. That's the only time you'll see me upset with the Green Bay Packers loss. So I get it. We said in our last video, most of my dad's side of the family is from Detroit. Like, I actively root for the Detroit Lions and Detroit sports, just even going a little bit further. But this is truly a Super Bowl bust season. I mean, this is the year. You watch Kansas City Chiefs game, and hopefully you guys are going to be watching Kansas City Chiefs game relatively soon. And that does come with some stress because I am talking about hopefully a future Super Bowl. I know you guys don't want to get there. I'll get there. The Chiefs, they're nothing what their record says. It's not even close. My biggest concern, if anything, would be a team like the Buffalo Bills. But neither here nor there. Detroit's decimated by injuries. They're just decimated, specifically defensively. You name it, a starter. You can name Alex Anzalone. You could name a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. People know who you're talking about. We're not even talking about Melifanu. We're not even talking about Emmanuel Mosley. We're not even talking about Malcolm Rodriguez, John Kaminsky, Levi Onwuzurike, Josh Pascal. A lot of these dudes are coming back, or they're week to week or what have you, but most of them are done for a couple of weeks. It truly is crazy. And so there's a couple of dudes on this Detroit Lions defense that you may have been seeing their names pop up all over the course, whether it was last week or the last couple of weeks. And I'll go off the top of my head here because Zeke Turner is going to be #1. Muhammad's definitely #2. You got guys, new additions. Zadarius Smith, he's been literally phenomenal. Miles Adams, we just pinpointed. Quan Alexander, Jamal Adams, 2 newer recent acquisitions. David Long Jr., Lee McNeil even got banged up in that game. I mean, it's just a completely different defense that was on paper at the start of the season because of injuries. So you look at a dude like Ezekiel Turner. This is a linebacker, all right? On Thursday against the Packers, he had 1 tackle and he had 1 quarterback hit. The stats don't pop out. And that's why context is always king. It really is. Like, you got to watch these Detroit Lion defensive guys. If you sit here in a comment section, not necessarily saying a video like this, but if you're on Twitter, you're on a social media or whatever, and you're saying, oh, the Detroit Lions just gave up 31 points on defense. Why are they that good? Like, what should concern me about 31 points given up? Well, first off, you're an asshole. You don't like NFL. You don't like sports. You're just one of those dudes. Neither here nor there. But context is key, right? Zeke had the tackle of the game by far. It wasn't even close. It was an open field takedown on my quarterback, Jordan Love, late in the fourth quarter, held my Green Bay Packers to a field goal. But one thing that really stood out to me, because we've noticed, and you guys have noticed this shift since 2022. It was one of the biggest reasons my first ever Detroit Lions video was when you guys were like 1-6 or 2-6, and you beat my Green Bay Packers in 2022. And then ultimately you broke my heart in week 18 and took down my Packers again. So this is becoming a reoccurring theme here. But one thing you notice immediately when you watch the Detroit Lions is the culture. And there was a viral video on Twitter where it was like, it was Dan Campbell's fourth or locker room celebration. Sorry, it was Dan Campbell's locker room celebration. You guys might have seen it on Twitter or videos or whatever. And he's hyped up like he always is in a post-game hype video in the locker room speech, right? And there was a tweet that went viral, and the guy was saying, like, has there ever been a more liked good team than the Detroit Lions of this year outside of like Cinderella teams in college basketball? And Zeke Turner said this quote: the first week of practice I got here, I'm like, okay, this is different from many of probably every organization when speaking about Detroit's culture. And that just rings so true. We talk about stuff like this more so in the offseason. When teams like each other and players like their coach and players like their teammates, and they actually respect their coaches and they actually respect their teammates, it makes all the difference in the world. I think there was like an NBA podcast. This is so out of pocket, but there was some big time. I don't know if it's like Gilbert Arenas or, Jeff Teague or somebody like that. And they were on an NBA podcast saying like, look, man, if you don't like your teammates, you're not going far. The best locker rooms typically go the furthest in the playoffs. And it's kind of just circles everything back together to thinking like, if you're a Lions fan watching these games and you're watching these videos and you're thinking like, is this real? Is this actually happening? And I will tell you from an outsider's perspective that it is very much happening, and it is very much scary. And I'm not even talking about only 2024, right? This is a legit team. It technically feels like Super Bowl or bust. I don't even really want to get into that because we'll deal with that if it ever comes, hopefully. But this team's legit. You guys know it. Your eyes are telling it. Your heart's telling it. It's time to admit it, all right? The Detroit Lions are 12-1. It's not rocket science. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button. Hit that sub button for daily NFL content. And guys, give me your thoughts on this Detroit Lions team and their future for this playoff season. Peace.